you'll feel like you've stepped onto the set of a Bond film. Narrow passageways and tight corridors lead to secluded rendezvous points. An air of elegance floats about a city that exudes a timeless beauty unlike any other. Built on a lagoon in the Adriatic Sea of northeastern Italy, Venice remains not only as an incredible feat of engineering, but as one of the most beautiful destinations on Earth. Making our base in Guidecca, we'll cross to the main island, where we'll marvel at the Doge's palace, become prisoners at the Bridge of Sighs, and brush up on Venetian history at the Museo Correr. Then, we'll learn the fascinating history behind some familiar European horses and see the tomb of Mark the Evangelist at St. Marks Basilica. We'll end our time in Venice, making our way across its most famous bridge. Immediately upon stepping out of the train station, Venice is ready to welcome its visitors with gorgeous views. To get to our hotel, we'll hop on Venice's answer to the public bus, a Vaporetto. These local transit ferries are relatively cheap, just under 10 euros, and run all throughout the canal. However, if you need a break from the crowds and the slow pace of the Vaporetto, private water taxis are an all too stylish alternative, but can exceed 10 times the cost. Arriving at the island of Guidecca, we are greeted by the imposing brick exterior of the Hilton Molino Stucchi. Once a flour mill, this 5-star resort is now the epitome of luxury. Being on a smaller outlying island, it's a much more quiet and private choice for accommodation, without sacrificing on its views. A short Vaporetto ride and we're on the main island to see some of Venice's most famous sights, all conveniently located in one place. Piazza di San Marco, or St. Mark's Square, is the central hub for all sightseeing travelers. At the corner of the square is the Doge's palace. The Doge was the Lord of Venice, and the title remained for life, when the Great Council would then elect the next Doge. From the courtyard, we enter to the institutional chambers, most of which served as waiting rooms for the main court, and adorned by paintings from Titian and Tiepolo, and an array of weaponry showing off the might of the Venetian Empire. At the end, the Chamber of the Great Council saw the elections to political offices, the passing of laws, and the like, but is now better known for housing the largest canvas painting on Earth. Venturing below the chambers leads to the Piombi, or the old prisons. Built in the 13th century and modified up until the 16th century, these prison chambers were known as the wells, alluding to their damp, isolated feeling. While this may have been their defining quality at the time, they are now more well known for having held, at least for a short time, Casanova, before he made his daring escape through the rooftops. Leading into the new prisons is the infamous Bridge of Sighs. What began as a simple connection point between the prison wings, it gained popularity from its name, taken from the expression of the prisoners being marched to their cells, sighing as they take in one last view of this beautiful city. Across St. Mark's is the Museo Correr. Boasting a large collection of Venetian art and artifacts, this museum gives travelers a deep insight into Venetian life and culture. Larger-than-life marble busts are placed directly facing large mirrors, taking a moment to admire their own reflection. Oiled canvases paint a quieter, more subdued Venetian experience. Sets of coins, military weapons, and maritime artifacts bring the intangible past up close and personal. Globes of the known world and the exploits of Marco Polo live in the Museo Correr as reminders of the adventurous Venetian spirit. That spirit is perhaps best found just across the square, adorning St. Marks Basilica. While scholars are still unsure, the four horses of St. Mark's are believed to have been crafted around the 2nd century in Constantinople. During the sack of Constantinople in the Fourth Crusade, Venetian military took the horses with them back to Venice, where they were placed atop St. Mark's. The horses remained until the 18th century, when Napoleon took them for his own and placed them atop the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. After his defeat, they were returned to Venice. The original horses remain on display inside St. Mark's, while replicas now adorn both the terrace of the Basilica as well as the Arc de Triomphe. At the ground level, St. Mark's Basilica is stunning. The exterior, with its mix of Eastern and Gothic influences, immediately stands out as the centerpiece of the square. Inside, the domed ceiling and arched walls are covered in gold-crowned mosaics, depicting biblical tales from creation to the apocalypse, with the majority focusing on the life of Jesus. At the end of the church is the Pala de Oro. The gold altarpiece is lined with enamel plaques and gems like emeralds and sapphires, and serves as a beautiful contrast to the tomb beside it. Protected behind simple marble, metal grating, and under concrete lie the remains of St. Mark the Evangelist. Believed to have authored the Book of Mark, the second book in the New Testament of the Bible, he was martyred in Alexandria, and because of the bond he shared with the Venetians, his remains were brought back to Venice, and the church established in his honor. A short walk from St. Mark's is arguably the most recognizable site in all of Venice. Of the four main bridges that cross the canal, the Rialto Bridge is the oldest and most well-known. At all times, it's a fight for a good spot, as everyone clamors for the best photo op. While Venice is famously packed with tourists day tripping from their cruise ships, the nighttime sees a much slower pace. The roar of the crowds has died, replaced by the sounds of live performers as the cafes turn to mini concert halls. With the streets nearly empty and music drifting about the air, Venice rewards those who stay after hours. So find a good spot for dinner, any will do, and take in the atmosphere. To whet the appetite, start with the regional classic Aperol Spritz, part Prosecco, part Aperol, part Club Soda. The main dishes are all mostly based around seafood and pasta, and unlike the rest of Italy, they go together on the same plate. With a classic fare like shrimp and mussels, or the local favorite, black ink cuttlefish, it's all fairly simple, but it's fresh. Every restaurant around town offers all the same items at the same price. Expensive. So find the spot with the best view and take it all in. With its distinct architecture, seemingly floating on a lagoon, Venice is undoubtedly one of the most beautiful cities on Earth. This city's rich history and gorgeous scenery make it a bucket list destination for just about everyone, and it warmly welcomes them all, embracing the energetic, touristy nature that comes with such a well-known destination. The canals are managed with surprising efficiency, with gondoliers cruising gently along as vaporettos and water taxis weave in and out of the waterways. Large carriers haul off garbage early in the morning, keeping this small, compact city surprisingly clean. It's safe and well-traversed, and without losing its unique charm. Venice is the type of destination that leaves the traveler wanting for nothing except perhaps more time.